Hi everyone, Lisa from Spellbound Miniatures here, and I thought I'd start this video with a quick explanation and side by side so you can see exactly where the dormer roof comes into our roof system. If you've watched any of our videos for a while, you'll know that the black one here is the Witches Cottage Roof. And the Christmas cabin that I'm making is the exact same roof. You can make a cabin. It doesn't have to be a witch's cottage. It could be a fairy tale cottage. Just depends on the colour scheme that you use. So you can see that it's the exact same roof really. We've got the triangle for the gable end. I've got a little different window in there than that one. And then here we've just got sort of solid roof elevations. That one has the dormer, the new dormer roof in it. And we also have an opening on this side because for the cabin, we've changed the orientation of the roof to put it that way round. Now, what that then enables you to do is I'm making the cabin double wide, so I can create another roof and then we can go sideways. There's a little height difference there because this has got shingles on the bottom and the ridge tiles on the top. But that's why we decided to make it kind of, it's square, but you can change the orientation of the elevation. And then on the Witch's Cottage, we did the opening at the back, and here it's technically the back, but it's also the side. You can have a much larger opening. So this video today is concentrating solely on this elevation here, and the Gabled dormer window SVG on its own is purely this roof elevation and that window. If you've already got the Witch's Cottage, you'll have this roof, and all you'll need to buy is the Gabled dormer window SVG. If you haven't got the Witch's Cottage, we're going to bring out the roof file as a separate SVG that will include all of this, the gingerbread trim and the dormer, gabled dormer window as well, so that you can have whichever version you want. So that's what this video is about. Let's go over to Design Space and I'll talk you through the SVG file. Okay, so we're in Design Space. We're going to upload our SVGs. I've already done that. I've put them in here, and you'll see there's 3 files in the SVG. One of them is just the roof opening, one is the full roof sheet, and the other is the dormer window itself. Now, first we're going to look at this full roof sheet, and we made our roof system the size to use of a full 11 by 11 Cricut chipboard of 2mm. Now, if you've got a Cricut, you won't be able to cut this piece because the Cricut with the knife blade can only cut 10.5. So even though the mat is 12. So that's the awkward thing we've encountered with Design Space Cricut and the knife blade. If, however, you have a larger cutting machine, a laser cutter, you can cut the roof elevation from this one. So, but if you have the Cricut and you have the knife blade and the regular 12-inch mat, do not cut this piece. Stay tuned and I'll go over what you do. But whatever you do, remember to make sure that the green inch square indeed measures 1 inch. On this one, it's simple. Just hide the big piece, click on that one, and it is 1 inch by 1 inch. So that piece is for if you have anything other than a Cricut that can cut larger pieces. So let's start afresh and we'll import the next piece. Now, this looks strange, and it's really crucial that we keep these 2 pieces attached where they are, the space. So I'm going to attach them first. Then whatever else we do, it will locate, and if you bear with me, you'll see why that's important. Now we need to check the size, so we hide this shape and we'll check the green inch square currently measures 1.75, so we want that to be an inch. So change that and then unhide this piece, and it's changed also. Now, if I click make it, what it's going to do is actually cut that green square. We don't want to, but we can't hide the green square because we need that to locate exactly where it is. So come over and click on the green square, change it from cut to pen. Just don't put a pen in, or put one in and it draws it, but that's fine. We just don't want it to cut it. So now it's going to be pen and cut. It will draw that, or pretend to draw that, and then it will cut this. Now we're going to use an 11 by 11 sheet of chipboard, and you can see here the restriction. It can't cut all the way up, but what we don't want to do is pull our chipboard down, because it's really crucial that where this starts cutting is that it places this right in that top left corner. You don't have to worry about it, it does it for you. But if I just change it to an 11 by 11 sheet, now you'll see that it's located the roof opening, which is going to cut out right dead center there of the roof. It's further down from the top, that's where it needs to be, don't worry about that, but it is dead center. So that's why when you put your piece of 11 by 11 chipboard on the Cricut mat, you go up into the very top left there, literally 0, 0, not where the red line is. So your material goes top left, and the Cricut will locate that exactly central to the roof piece. So that's what you need to do for that one. Obviously make sure you tape all the edges and the corners, and move your white wheels all the way over to the right so they fit in this gap here. So probably that's the most complicated bit, and why it's not necessarily a good beginner's project, this. So if we come back out of that, and then I'll just talk you through the actual dormer window one, which is that one. Again, we would want to check that that is the right size. So we can grab this on the layers panel, take it up out of that group now, and then do select all and group them. Click off, and now when we click the group, it's got all of those. The lower group, hide that, and it just reveals the inch square, which is now 1.6. Everyone's different. And then we unclick, unhide the rest of that file, and it's shrunk accordingly. We can now hide the green square because we don't actually want to cut that. These are the window pieces. They're black for matte board. You'll see in the video I do mine in craft board. That's completely up to you. Those are the window spacers and the little window ledge. These pieces are again in 2mm chipboard, and that's the size if you want to cut your plastic or acetate or PVC sheet for your faux glass for your window. So that's all the pieces. I'll see you back over on the mats now, where we can start to build it. Today we're going to be making the dormer window, which is a new addition to our roofs. This is the sort of roof section where the Cricut has cut out the hole for the dormer roof, and then these are the parts for the dormer roof. You've got the front and the two sides, and then this is the roof of the dormer roof. So it's quite a simple construction. What we first want to do though is, you'll see the actual dormer window itself has a hole but no window frame at the minute. So you will cut from that file, the Gabled dormer window file, these pieces, and I'm doing 2 layers of craft board for mine. So 2 in the front, and then there'll be 2 on the inside. And you also get these pieces, which are used to layer up however many layers you need. And if you imagine, when you've got this on the outside and a sheet, either a piece of acetate or plexiglass or clear plastic, there's a gap there, the thickness of this chipboard, so we use these cross pieces to fill out the gap between the front frame and the acetate or the plexiglass, whatever you're using, and they're kind of like spacers, so they fill in the gap either side of the clear material, and then we can then glue the back frame on so it holds everything nice and secure. And it's much easier, I think, to do this bit whilst it's not built, before you build it, so we can glue them on, press them down, and actually press the whole thing as a piece, and then we carry on and construct the dormer window. So that's what we're going to do first, is glue our frames together and press them and let them dry. And we just sort of gently push them together and then put them on the ends and make sure all the ends are square. Like that. And then I'll put that under my trusty piece of granite, and that will press it flat whilst it dries. Okay, they're dry, and what we're going to do first is glue the outside layer. Doesn't matter, there's no difference, but I'm just in my head calling it the outside layer onto the outside of the dormer. And you could cut this in mat board, you could do it in chipboard. I think chipboard on chipboard is just a little bit thick for me, but with craft board you could do as many layers as you like. This is 2 layers thick. I think if I did it to 4 layers, again, it starts to look a bit clunky. But it's really up to you. It's your personal choice, however many layers you like. I might cut a 3rd layer, and I can always glue that on afterwards. So I'm going to glue this one on now. And that's the great thing about cutting your own files, is you can literally customise them to whatever preferences you have. And we're going to glue the outside edge, but we're not going to glue the inside edge at the moment. So just line that up, check it from the inside that there's sort of nothing overhanging or that it doesn't look square. It should line up exactly. And then we go and press that to dry. Now once that's dry, we're going to look at how the glass, plastic, whatever you're using fits in. You can cut this on the Cricut Maker, and that's the blue, the very light blue shape in there. You can cut it by hand. I'm using here, it's clear PVC, and it's 0.015 of an inch thick, which is quite thin. I'd say just under a mil, and that would fit in there, and you could just put this one on top, but I don't know if I can show you that. You kind of get a gap there. So what I like to do, this is optional, is we have these spacers, and I know from experience with this particular clear product that 2 of these spacers either side, when they're glued and pressed, just the right amount of thickness. I think it's 2. That doesn't actually look. That looks. Oh yeah. When they press, it's surprising how much it squashes them down. Usually 2, and then we'd have that. Then another 2 on this side now. And then when that's all pressed down, you can feel that it's like smooth. If 2's too many, try 1 and do it dry fitting it before you glue it. Whereas if I just put 1 in, we'll try that. I can feel that there's a lip there, that's not quite thick enough. So I'm going to do 2 layers, but you have a play around, see what works with your thickness of clear material as well as the thickness if you're using craft board. So I'm going to glue my 2 cross pieces together and press those and let them dry. Okay, so now those cross pieces are dry, we're going to glue one onto the inside now of the outside frame. So we've glued the outside of the window frame on the outside, we flip that over and we're going to glue this on the inside to make up the space between the outside frame and the glass. Designed to fit exactly in there, so you shouldn't have much trouble locating it. Then we're going to fit our piece of clear plastic, acrylic, whatever you're using. We then take the next cross piece and we're going to glue that on this frame first. So decide which is the outside of your frame, if there's a prettier side, and glue that to this. Be sparing with your glue on this one, because the last thing you want is any glue to squeeze out and bleed out onto that clear plastic. It can cause misting and fogging sometimes. So make sure that's all lined up. And then you'll have a little raised edge there that needs to locate in this window. So do it gently because you don't want to move it, the glue won't have set. I mean, you could leave it for that glue to set, but it should all clip into place just like that. So once you've dry fit it and you're happy that it works, we're just going to put some glue around the edge of the frame. Flip it over and pop it back in. And you'll see there that all the edges will go nice and flat. And we have a double-sided window frame. So I like to press that now to make sure that everything is all flat and nice and secure. So that's now dry, and you're probably wondering, what are these very thin bits that are left at the end? Now again, I've cut 4 of these for each side. If it was mat board or chipboard, you wouldn't need to do as many. They're actually to create just the visual effect of a little window ledge. So this is a thickness of 4 here, and you can see there it just adds a little light and shade detail. It's thicker than the window frame, and there I've got them on the bottom. You could also put them on the top and the bottom, and it's just another way of adding some interest. So I glued 4 of them together, and I will put those on the bottom of each side of the window. And I'm just eyeballing that. Actually, I don't like the way that's up. I'm going to turn that up the other way. That's better. If you get any glue squeezed out, just wipe it off. You can just see that's a nice detail. So I'm going to layer these up and I'll put them on the other side. Okay, so the next thing to do is to start constructing the dormer roof, and you'll notice here I've just got some scrap pieces of craft board. They've come out of a window, a smaller window than this, and I've layered them up so that they're the thickness of this window frame, and then we've also got to allow for the window ledge at the bottom. Then when I put them on here, because I need to glue this piece onto there, it supports it. If that wasn't there, it would kind of bow a little bit. So you could build it and then put the window frame in, but I just think it's so much easier to do it before you build. So that's how I get round that. And this is very simple. We've got it's a triangle. You've got the long diagonal side, a short sort of horizontal side, and just a slightly longer vertical, and it's that longer vertical that's going to go onto the front part of the dormer window, but it's the back part of the front, if you know what I mean, the inside part, and it literally lines up with the bottom, and then the top should match up to where it starts to go in for the roof. So we put the glue on that edge, not the longest diagonal edge, but the longest sort of square edge there. I always over glue, and then line it up with the bottom, and we want to make the outside edge flush, so I'll show you that in a minute. Line it up with the top and press it down. Wipe off any glue that's squeezed out. What you definitely don't want to do is have it hanging over the bottom, because that's where it goes onto the roof, so you don't want any overhang there. Make sure this edge is nice and flush with this outer edge here, and then that it goes up to that corner there. And then we do the other side, again the same, that longest square straight edge. Line it up to the bottom, and then it should naturally meet in the right place at the top. Flush with the outside edge and wipe any glue off. And then we've got a really handy piece. This piece that came out of the roof section is exactly the right width to fit in here and keep your uprights square as they dry. I don't know if you can see that there like that. It's exactly the right thing. Let me just put a little bit of pressure there. There. So that ensures that those side pieces are now square and they dry with a nice right angle. So we literally just check again, all of these edges are pushed down nice and level. And then we leave that to dry. Okay, the next part of the roof section is quite nifty. There's two ways of doing it. I like to do it this way, so I'll show you the way that I like to do it first. You could, I don't know if you can see that. You can, if you're going to use ridge tiles, glue them with a very thin edge together, but I actually like to just butt mine up one to the other. It means that one piece of the overhang is literally the thickness of the chipboard longer or shorter than the other one, but I don't think you notice that, especially if we're going to use shingles. So I think that that's a stronger joint when it's completely butted up than if we try and line up those very thin edges. And this is the way that I do it. So we've got, it's this longest edge here that I'm going to glue. So we've got the longest edge. This is quite nifty. difficult. I'll try and show you what I mean. I'm going to put these two together at right angles, and then this top one is going to bend over until the bottom, it meets this sort of top here, and then this piece that fits on the bottom of that. So we end up with that like that, and then the bottom piece here, and it gets us the exact right angle. So I'll show you what I mean. So we make sure that the top and the bottom of these pieces are lined up. We get this piece, we put this diagonal edge on the bottom here, and then we slowly tilt the top over until we think it's just about the same angle, and we slide this piece in, and that's it. We just hold it there for it to take. But you can check up and down, make sure we've got the same angle, and just make sure that this edge is pushed against that one. It doesn't take long for the glue to go off anyway. There will be some play in this joint when we fit it onto the roof, but I'll see if I can lift it up now. It's a bit stronger. Whoop, not quite, but there we go. So I'm putting that there, and then you can see there that that is the correct angle, and we just need to make sure that this edge is still nice and gluing along there, and we can always put a bead of super glue down there if we really want to give it some strength afterwards. So I'm just going to hold this. I could masking tape it so it goes off and I can do something else, but it will go off pretty quick anyway, and just keep pressing it down. I could wedge something under there to hold it like that, and we'll let that dry. Okay, so while the top part of the roof is drying, we can glue the window part onto the roof section, and I find it easier to glue the edges. If we try and glue all three at the same time, it's difficult to know and line them up. So what I found the easiest way is to measure down an inch on each of these and mark it on the inside. Pencil. So it's on this part that's touching the roof. So if we just measure an inch, the same on that side. So that's on the inside edge. I can't really see that, 1 inch down, and that will line up with this part. So those corners there. I'll just do it this way because it's easier for me to see. So we will put glue on these two edges, so that's the long diagonal edges. We'll put them, line them up so that the inside edge, I'll do it on one side, of this window lines up with the edge of this hole here, and then we kind of gently tease the other side out, and then so that the inch mark, oh, it's difficult to get in there and show you, the inch mark is there, where is it, can you see it in there, that lines up with that angle there. So that's the way that I figured to do it. If you want to put glue along the bottom, absolutely do that, but it's kind of, you end up with glue all over the place. So this is how I'm doing it, but you absolutely do it however you prefer to do. And I'll once it's all glued in place, I'll run a seam of super glue along that bottom edge just to seal it up. Okay, so we're going to find our 1 inch marks on the inside, and they're going to line up here. I'll do it that way, I think. Excuse my head if it gets in the way. And then make sure that at the bottom it kind of evenly overhangs. So hold those there and then make sure that bottom is lined up with the edges of the window. And then again, press it. Wipe any excess glue. If you've got any squeezing out anywhere. Once it's grabbed, have a good look. Look at it from the inside. Make sure that's just lined up a bit more there. Push that out slightly. It's okay on that side. Just make sure there's no gaps. But as I said, if you do see some, you can always run a bead of super glue and press down again and seal up any gaps. We're looking for gaps here and there. And then I can see, I don't know if I can show you it, sort of in there, but when I press it down gently it closes up, so I'll just put some glue in there from the inside and squeeze it down when I'm happy that everything else is square and dry. Cool, I'll leave that to really dry now before we put the top roof on. Okay, so this has dried now and the roof section has dried, and all we need to do is glue the roof section on. And I think it's just as well to take some time here and play around, dry fit it. You'll see there is some flexibility, so if you had it sort of there and you thought, oh look, it's sticking out a bit, you will be able to just squeeze it into fit. So what I do is I get it in a really good position and think, okay, you know, where am I going to put the glue? I'm going to put them on these two, the front bit here and on the back two edges of the roof, and just make sure when you're dry fitting it that it fits at the top and it fits at the front. And then I take a pencil and I just mark where it's going to finish there and at the sides, and then where it is in the front here, I can just tilt that up, I'll actually mark in there, oh I can't see that, those lines in there, so that I know when it's got glue on it where to aim, so we don't get glue everywhere. So that's what we're going to do next. Get some glue out. And you can see I did, that little shiny bit in there is just some super glue to strengthen that up. And if you found that there was the layer there was moving, just you could squeeze some super glue in there as well. So we're going to put the glue on the diagonal back edges. And on these edges here. Okay, so I've got a pencil mark. Can you see that about there? Can't quite see it there. I've got a pencil mark there, which is the top of my roof, and that's where I'm going to aim this pointy corner. And then I've got another line here I want to line up, and there, and then bring that down onto there, and then just squeeze it down so you know that this back section is gluing and in there is gluing. And sort of push in all directions that you can. And it's, you know, it doesn't matter if there's a bit of a gap, because we're going to shingle the roof, or you could put a snowy sort of blanket on, and we'll use flashing as well. I like to do that to make it look as near to real life as possible. And flashing is, I just use a piece of craft board, so this thick, or this thin craft board, and we score it, and I'll show you how to do that, the same as we did for the chimney on the Witch's Cottage. That hides a multitude of sins. So that's that. I'll probably just hold it and press it down a bit more whilst it dries. So there we have it. It's glued on. And you can imagine now when we've got the other piece of the roof, it's actually added a little bit more head height in the room, and certainly some character as well. Okay, today I'm just going to do a little bit of covering the decorating of things before we build them. You know, I like to do that, say, in the Witch's Cottage and the cabin. I'm doing specifically a roof structure here, the dormer roof, which I haven't yet decorated on the inside. Normally I would. And I'm going to build the rest of the roof structure. So I just thought I'd cover here a couple of tips really. This is the scrapbook kind of paper that you get in these pads where you have lots of different, and they're usually quite tonal and go with each other. And I really liked this paper, but obviously the planks are way too big. So you can do it in Design Space. I've done it in Inkscape. You create a lot of lines, and they're cut lines. And I cut this into lots of strips and then glued them to make this. And I did, you know, sort of, let me just show you, like you glue a whole one on, and then you need to glue, you can't see it, it's like camouflage, I'll turn it over. So if I glue a whole one on, I'd start at one end, and then you'd need another strip, and you don't butt it up exactly, you leave just a tiny gap, just enough for the light to sort of create a shadow, and then you would cut that end off, and then you could use the end that you've cut off up here and start creating another row. And that's how you do it. That's simple. Always just leave a tiny gap. So I did that and created the kind of planked effect floor, which I really love. And then also used the same file but with the debossing tool, and I don't know how easy that's going to show up on white. I just debossed the lines instead without cutting them, and that creates a really lovely faux shiplap effect. So you can use that interior or exterior. I'm going to use this that way up on the triangle gable ends of my roof. So all I would do is, if you've got vertical lines, you might want to sort of think about, if you're really fussy like me, you want one sort of vertical right in the centre, or you might not want that. Sometimes haphazard looks good. I think I've marked one up already. Oh yeah, over here. So if you work out where you want the board to start and finish, then turn it over and then mark that on the back so you know when you're gluing it where to do it. And simply, this is how I do it. Take glue. Actually, I have probably got enough in here. No, I haven't. I'm just going to get some other glue a second. I'm going to use a glue stick. I like glue sticks on paper stuff. Get that bit off. And I know for this particular piece, the triangle gable end, I can decorate it from edge to edge because we glue this on those sides. So that's the only thing to bear in mind if you decorate before you build, is if you might need to leave a gap where you're gluing, say, a wall onto a floor. But I know with this particular piece, the triangle gable end, that I can decorate the whole piece because I put the glue on the actual edges. So give it a good coat of glue. This is the easiest wallpapering in the world. And then just line it up with the bottom and the lines that you've got, the pencil lines there. It doesn't matter if it's not even completely even at the bottom, because I go around with a craft knife and just cut the excess off. Press that down, and then I'll put that under my famous granite slab to press and dry at the same time. And then once that's dry, I simply put it onto my cutting mat that way up, and I'll just run a craft knife down those two sides. But I'll let this dry first and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Okay, while those are drying, we'll look at the inside of the dormer roof. And as I said, I should have decorated it before I built it, but I wanted to check that the prototype worked, and it did. So to decorate this roof, though, you'll notice I've got some lines on here. This bottom section is 2¼ inches up, and this is the piece of roof that actually overhangs on the outside of the building. So you don't want to wallpaper that, because that's like under the eaves of your building. So that we would paint the colour of the outside or paint it black. The outside edge here is where those two bits that I've just wallpapered, they form that structure there, the actual gable end, and they need to glue onto the basic chipboard. So those come in, and that is 3/8 inch in on either side, so we don't want to put wallpaper there. And then there's a 2mm gap at the top, because when we put the other side of the roof on to create that, I'm going to butt this one up onto that one. So I'm leaving a gap on there too. So that shows me where I actually want to put. I'm going to wallpaper it. It'd be much easier to paint this, but I actually want this particular wallpaper to go with this floor. So nothing like making it difficult for yourself. If you remember, this particular size, it's 8×8. When I did it in the room box, because it's only slightly not tall enough, I kind of put it up a bit from the bottom and down a bit from the top, and made some baseboards, or skirting boards as we call them in the UK, and some coving at the top. So rather than have to just match in one piece and trim all the wallpaper to there, I'm going to do the same here, except I'm going to use the white craft board like I did for the faux shiplap cladding. So, and also probably the easiest way to get this shape out of here is to use the piece that we cut out of there. So I'm going to sort of roughly guess that I want that, so if I turn it over, it's going to be easier, how high up I want this to create enough of a baseboard and coving. And then I can put that on there and then just draw around that and cut that out. So I'm going to do that now. And I think that looks good enough. Could always put some trim round there as well. I might do that just round the edge. to neaten it up. I think I want to have curtains hanging in there anyway. I will be painting inside here, probably with just an off-white colour. And now I will just match in. I'll get another sheet of this and do the sides and glue that on. Okay, so these gable ends are now dry. So literally as simple as finding your knife and cutting down the edge. Got a little bit here of a bump that's catching the knife, so it's easier to do it in smaller sections. You can usually feel when it's gone all the way through. You can always burnish. Sometimes the knife, like on the Cricut, will leave a little raised edge, so just burnish that back over. And that's very effective, but I don't know if you can get that. The lighting's bad in here. That's really, can't pick that up, can it? Where are we? No, it doesn't want to pick, there we go. Doesn't show up very well. And this is the gable end that's got the window in it. So what you could do, if you're really organised, which I'm not, is you could get the Cricut to actually cut this exact piece out with the hole in it. You'd just make this piece of faux shiplap craft board first and then position it on your Cricut mat and get it to cut that triangle piece from the roof out with the window. I wasn't that organised and I never know how I want to decorate things in advance, so we're just easily enough to cut this one out afterwards. We are going to have the window frame will be fitting over here anyway, so that looks good. And then if you can imagine, that will be at this end on top of there. It's going to look quite cute. So I'm just going to do the other piece exactly the same way. A little bit of glue on there. There we go. So that is easy shiplap cladding, and you could do it horizontally as well if you wanted. Up to you. If you'd like to know how to continue building the roof, I'll put a link to the original video in the description box below. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.